TNT Tishwash, the deadline for the government to present its reform paper is nearing completion, and the Finance Committee is presenting a new one. The Parliamentary Finance Committee clarified that the government's deadline to present its reform paper that it promised ends on the 24th of this month and therefore is bound by this date. And despite the absence of any indications from the government in this regard, the Parliament prepared a reform paper to be added to the paper the government to help it advance the country's economy. The reporter of the Finance Committee, Ahmed Al Safar, confirmed that the government is supposed to present its reform paper to Parliament and that an extraordinary session will be held within the next 2 weeks. Al Safar said the Finance Committee is working on a reform paper and it is assumed there will be a meeting with the government to unify the two papers and come up with a reform paper that promotes the economy, maximizes revenues, and guides expenditures to get rid of loans as the state can properly control its resources. He added, the borrowing law authorized the government to borrow amounts sufficient for 3 months as salaries for employees, and with the rise in oil prices, the state's imports are supposed to increase, and therefore it's assumed that the government has money to pay salaries. Parliament voted on it reluctantly. He continued, the Finance Committee's decision is clear, which is that the government does not grant any type of borrowing, whether internal or external, if the budget is not presented, and in return the government promised that there would be reforms, and it was granted a period of 60 days, and until now there is no answer from it. In turn, a member of the Finance Committee, Jamal Cougar, confirmed that the 24th of this month is the last date for the government to submit its reform paper, noting that the period has been approved is nearing the end and it must be sent on time. Cougar said the borrowing law authorized the government to set a financial ceiling of 15 trillion dinars and $5 billion and imposed on it to send the 2021 budget and the sums approved in the borrowing law were by agreement of both the government and Parliament, and it is not entitled to request other additional sums. That the Parliament has a reform paper, but the government has not yet sent any reform paper to merge the two. He added that, quote, the government is obligated to present its paper on time, although Parliament is still in its legislative recess, but it is not a requirement that there be a session of Parliament on August 24th. This may be at the end of this month or at the beginning of next month, unquote. Noting that the situation of Corona, it casts a shadow over the Parliament sessions, and this does not prevent there being sessions, but it will not be in the usual way, as there may be solutions such as social distancing or dividing them in groups.